with a breakdown of 83 heads of state, 7 vice presidents and crown princes, 41 heads of government, 4 deputy prime ministers, 45 ministers, 1 vice minister, and 8 chairs of delegation, as well as 3 observers. And in terms of the Secretary General's readouts, there have been 146 of them, and they have all been shared with you. So that's one more year down. And while we're on the subject of the General Assembly, I want you to know that tomorrow at 11:30 a.m., there will be a briefing here by Annalena Baerbock, the President of the General Assembly. Then at 12:45 p.m., there will be a press briefing here by Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia, Permanent Representative of the Russian Federation to the United Nations and President of the Security Council for the month of October. And he will brief on the program of work for October. And earlier today, we issued the following statement. The Secretary General welcomes the announcement yesterday by U.S. President Trump intended to achieve a ceasefire and sustainable peace for Gaza and for the region. He further appreciates the important role of Arab and Muslim states in working to this end. It's now crucial that all parties commit to an agreement and its implementation. The Secretary General reiterates that our priority must be to ease the tremendous suffering caused by this conflict. He once again reiterates his call for an immediate and permanent ceasefire, unfettered humanitarian access across Gaza, and for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. And he hopes that this will create the conditions allowing for the realization of the two-state solution. The United Nations remains steadfast in its commitment to supporting all efforts that promote peace, stability, and a more hopeful future for the people of Palestine and Israel and across the region. Meanwhile, the Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, Tom Fletcher, said that President Trump's plan opens new possibilities for humanitarians to deliver life-saving aid at the scale desperately needed by civilians, as well as for hostages finally coming home. Mr. Fletcher stressed that we are ready and eager to work in a practical and principled way to seize this moment for peace. Our teams, networks, supplies, and expertise are in place and ready to be mobilized quickly and efficiently, as we did during the previous ceasefire. As we've consistently emphasized, it's essential to end all attacks, restore public order, and facilitate humanitarian access to and throughout Gaza. Eliminating restrictions on the entry of critical items and the work of international NGOs remains a key requirement. These game-changing steps will allow us to resume community-based services at a level that ensures no one is left behind. It will be critical that the private sector will be empowered to operate at a meaningful scale, noting that humanitarian aid alone cannot meet the full scope of needs in Gaza. Looking ahead, it will be crucial to ensure that these conditions are sustained, along with generous and reliable funding and the restoration of decimated facilities and infrastructure. Meanwhile, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs warns that areas across the Strip, especially Gaza City, continue to come under heavy Israeli bombardment. The UN Human Rights Office said that Israeli strikes intensified on the northwestern part of Deir el-Bala between the 24th and 28th of September, with at least 89 Palestinians reportedly killed in at least a dozen separate incidents. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health in Gaza said today that 175 people, including 35 children, have died from starvation and malnutrition since the confirmation of famine in Gaza Governorate in August. UNRWA reports that in Gaza City, its teams continue operating 18 shelters for more than 4,000 people, although 28 others remain inaccessible or had to be evacuated. Only one of the agency's 5 medical points in Gaza City is still operational. Farther south, in Deir el-Bala, UNRWA's teams continue to operate 26 shelters, serving over 400,000 people, as well as 13 medical points and health centers, and 21 temporary learning sites for children. In Khan Yunis and the Al-Mawasi area, services are being maintained in 20 UNRWA shelters, supporting some 800,000 people. Health services are provided through 14 medical points, 3 health centers, and 19 temporary learning sites. And in southern Lebanon, peacekeepers from the UN Interim Force in Lebanon continue to find unauthorized weapons. In the past few days, the peacekeepers discovered several weapons and ammunition caches, including rockets and shells in Sector West. They also found unexploded ordnances in the area of operations. Peacekeepers also continue to observe Israeli Defense Forces military presence and activities in the area of operations, including firing across the Blue Line. Yesterday, the peacekeepers detected shelling near Yarun in Sector West. This morning, at the high-level conference on the situation of Rohingya and other minorities in Myanmar, Courtney Rattray, the chef de cabinet, delivered remarks on behalf of the Secretary General. He said that as this crisis tramples on the human rights, dignity, and safety of millions and threatens regional stability, it's not enough to take stock of the status quo. We must also foster solidarity and forge solutions. As we work for that future, the Secretary General urged member states to demand immediate action in 3 crucial areas. First, all parties must respect international humanitarian law and human rights law. The protection of civilians must be an immediate priority. Second, unhindered humanitarian access inside Myanmar must be guaranteed. No community should be cut off from food, medicine, and life-saving assistance. Third, we need reinvigorated humanitarian and development investment to meet basic needs, to help refugees transition from dependence to self-reliance, and to ease the strain on host communities. The people of Bangladesh have demonstrated enormous generosity, sharing their land, forests, scarce water, and limited resources. The international community must show greater solidarity to support Rohingya refugees and those who assist them, the Secretary General said in his message. Also speaking this morning was Julie Bishop, the Special Envoy of the Secretary General for Myanmar. She said that in her role, she has heard from all the voices of Myanmar and listened to the conflicting perspectives while remaining impartial and upholding UN values and principles. She said an inclusive Myanmar is only possible if it guarantees safety, justice, and opportunity for all communities, most critically the Rohingya, and addresses the root causes of conflict, discrimination, and disenfranchisement. Also speaking today were Filippo Grandi, the High Commissioner for Refugees, and Volker Turk, the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and we have shared all of those remarks with you. I've been asked, and I can tell you that the Secretary General is deeply concerned over violence during recent demonstrations in Ecuador, which resulted in the death of 1 protester. He calls for the full respect of human rights and underscores the importance of safeguarding civic space. He urges all actors to refrain from any form of violence and reiterates the importance of resolving disputes through inclusive dialogue. In a statement issued today, the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan called on Afghanistan's de facto Taliban authorities to immediately and fully restore nationwide internet and telecommunications access. Since the 16th of September, internet access has been interrupted or cut in many parts of Afghanistan, with internet and mobile access also cut in Kabul and nationwide on the 29th of September, without prior notice. The mission notes that the cut in access has left Afghanistan almost completely isolated from the outside world, and risks inflicting significant harm on the Afghan people, including by threatening economic stability and exacerbating one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. The mission pointed out that such a ban has immediate and far-reaching consequences, including severely impacting the functioning of critical banking and financial systems, further increasing the isolation of women and girls, limiting access to emergency services and medical care, disrupting the aviation sector, and limiting access to remittances for dependent families. The current blackout also constitutes a further restriction on access to information and freedom of expression in Afghanistan. There's more in UNAMA's statement. This morning, Bintu Keita, the head of our peacekeeping mission in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, briefed the Security Council. She welcomed the important milestones that have been reached in the past few months, but added that there are discrepancies between the progress we see on paper and the reality we observe on the ground, which continues to be marred with violence. Since June, Ms. Keita added, the peacekeeping mission has recorded over 1,000 civilians killed in acts of violence in Ituri and North Kivu, and the toll is rising daily, she said. In February, she said, the Security Council sent a clear message to all parties through the adoption of Resolution 2773. 8 months later, the key provisions of the resolution remain largely unimplemented, Ms. Keita said, adding that despite the Council's requests, the AFC M23 have continued to pursue a logic of territorial expansion and consolidation. She said the mission remains fully committed to supporting ongoing peace efforts. She called upon the Council and all partners to bring about a permanent ceasefire and a durable peace agreement that will establish stability in eastern DRC. Only then will commitments be translated into meaningful progress for the people of the DRC. And Ms. Keita will be available to speak to you at the Security Council stakeout immediately after the end of consultations. Turning to Sudan, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs is deeply concerned about worsening conditions in El Fasher, the besieged state capital of North Darfur, and the adjoining Abu Shuk camp, where local responders have reported the deaths of dozens of children under 5, as well as numerous older people due to hunger and disease over the past 40 days. Funding shortages and rising operational costs have also forced the shutdown of community kitchens, which has left thousands of people without access to daily meals. In a statement issued yesterday, the humanitarian and resident coordinator in Sudan, Denise Brown, called for the lifting of the siege of al-Fashir as well as an end to indiscriminate attacks and the issuance of clear orders to prevent sexual violence and ethnically motivated attacks. Ms. Brown said that the UN has received reports of unlawful killings, abductions, and arbitrary detention, alongside indiscriminate attacks on markets, hospitals, and places of worship. Civilians in al-Fashir describe impossible choices as they remain trapped in the city or attempt to flee, only to face violence, harassment, and looting along insecure routes. She stressed that under international humanitarian law, civilians must be protected and safe passage must be guaranteed for those who wish to leave the city. Exit routes need to remain open, secure, and accessible, and civilians who remain also require protection, along with access to food, water, and other essential supplies. Local responders and other humanitarian workers who risk their lives daily to deliver assistance must also be protected. We hope that Ms. Brown will be our noon briefing guest later this week to talk to you about the situation in Sudan and mainly in Darfur. Turning to the Central African Republic, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs reports that renewed violence in the country's southeast is hindering humanitarian operations. In the Haut-Mboumbou prefecture, a flare-up of fighting this month has forced people to flee their homes. Humanitarian workers have been attacked, and aid convoys have been looted. In the region of Jemma, humanitarian activities have been suspended since the 20th of September, affecting nearly 13,000 people. The insecurity has also disrupted the reopening of schools. Turning to Mozambique, our colleagues at the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that they are concerned about a sharp increase in violence affecting civilians in the province of Cabo Delgado. As of the end of August, there have already been reported 519 incidents impacting civilians, such as aerial bombardments, lootings, killings, and the burning of homes. This surpasses the 372 such incidents recorded in all of 2024. Our humanitarian colleagues noted that in recent weeks, more than 20,000 people, including 10,000 children, were displaced in the province. The numbers of people affected could be much higher, as many families flee into the bush and return home whenever security conditions permit, after already experiencing displacement and receiving little aid. Since the beginning of the year, more than 110,000 people have been displaced in Cabo Delgado province. OCHA says that the ongoing insecurity is also disrupting essential services. Humanitarian organizations have had to temporarily pause operations in some locations. Our humanitarian partners are striving to provide assistance to people impacted by the violence in the districts of Mueda, Mudumbe, Ankwabe, Balama, and Montepuez. So far, they've been able to assist more than 11,000 people, but many other districts remain without support due to severe funding shortages. In this volatile context, we urgently need flexible and predictable funding. Despite growing needs, this year's $352 million humanitarian response plan for Mozambique is 20% funded, with just $73 million received. Recent funding cuts have forced the suspension of critical water, sanitation, and hygiene projects, leaving some 260,000 people in Cabo Delgado without access to essential services. And this is just one example, as our collective ability to respond to people's needs is compromised across all sectors. Today is International Translation Day. This day is an opportunity to pay tribute to the work of language professionals, which plays an important role in bringing nations together, facilitating dialogue, strengthening by this world peace and security. And we would like to say thank you to our friends in Abuja and Port-au-Prince for their full payments to the regular budget. The payments from Nigeria and Haiti bring the total number of fully paid up member states to 135. Yes, Edie.
Thank you very much, Farhan. As a follow-up to the statements from both the Secretary General and Tom Fletcher, has the United Nations actually been in discussion with U.S. officials about actually implementing the humanitarian side of the proposal that is now before Hamas?
Well, first, of course, we'll have to wait to see whether this agreement is accepted by the parties. But we are beginning our planning efforts, and we will be reaching out both to the parties on the ground and to the U.S. and others.
And have there been any discussions yet with anyone from the U.S. government?
I believe we had been in touch with the U.S. over the course of this process, but I don't have anything to announce just yet.
And secondly, does the UN have any comment on the Taliban's announcement that it is cutting the internet throughout the country, which is already having dire consequences?
Yes, I read that out just at the start of this briefing. Just to let you know, part of what I said is that the UN Assistance Mission of Afghanistan has called on the de facto authorities to immediately and fully restore nationwide internet and telecommunications access, and there's much more from the mission.
What implications is the UN especially concerned about?
Again, I'd refer you at greater length to what I said, but the big problem is that this leaves Afghanistan almost completely isolated from the outside world. It could threaten economic stability. It can worsen one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, and it can have a particular effect on vulnerable populations, including women.
Which means no online schooling for women, among many other things.
Yeah, among many other things, and that is why UNAMA is pushing for this to be ended immediately. Deshi, and then you.
Several questions. First, there is a suicide bombing attack in Pakistan today. Does the Secretary General have anything to say about this attack?
We condemn all acts of terrorism, including what happened today in Pakistan.
Okay, I have more questions. The second thing is about the relationship between U.S. and Venezuela. The Venezuelan president said that he's ready to announce state of emergency just in case the U.S. had a ground attack the targets inside Venezuela, which many people believe is the latest escalation. Does the Secretary General worry about the trend in the Latin America area?
The Secretary General certainly wants to make sure that there is no deterioration in the situation involving Venezuela, and he, of course, spoke to the foreign minister over the past week, and we have the readout of that available for you.
All right. One last question: is there any update on the investigation of the escalator?
There's nothing new to say compared to what we said last week. Yes.
On President Trump's peace proposal for Gaza, he says the Secretary General welcomes it. Does he find it? Oh, sorry. I forgot.
Yeah. Please use the microphone. Yeah. It's okay.
This is Nama Abdullah with Rudal. About President Trump's peace offer, you said the Secretary General welcomes it. Does the Secretary General find it to be fair? That's why he welcomes it, or what specifically makes the Secretary General, welcome this proposal? Thank you.
Well, what the Secretary General wants to see, and we've been talking about this for some time, is an immediate and permanent ceasefire, unfettered humanitarian access, and the release of all hostages. And he wants a path towards the realization of a two-state solution. So that is what our priorities are. I don't have anything specific to say about the points of this plan at this point. Abdulhamid.
Thank you, Farhan. I have two questions also on the peace proposal presented by Mr. Trump. Isn't wiser if the SG waited until the second party to the conflict expresses its opinion? I mean, don't you see that he rushed to welcome it before listening to the other party? Maybe they have some reservation, they have some ideas that could make it better.
I trust the Secretary General's judgment about what is the best timing for diplomatic efforts. As I just pointed out, the Secretary General said it's now crucial that all parties commit to an agreement and its implementation. What's your second question?
My second question, you just issued a statement about riots in Ecuador. But there are riots in Morocco for the last 3 days, and many people were arrested, and the young people who are protesting health condition and education and other domestic issues are being harassed and arrested in Morocco. So why you didn't issue a similar statement to what happened in Ecuador?
On Morocco, what I can tell you is that we want to make sure that everyone's right to freedom of expression and to peaceful protest is fully respected. Iftikhar.
Okay.
Thank you, Farhan. My question was asked by Deji.
Well, that is what happens when I ask the people in the room before I ask you. Sorry about that. All right.
No problem.
And any other questions either in the room or online? If not, have a good afternoon.